Welcome everyone back to the Crimson 15 podcast. I'm your host, Crimson Sen.
15 PCA.
810-454.
Be sure to check us out over on Twitter at C15 Podcast. Join the discussion over on Discord, link in the description below. And if you're enjoying the videos, be sure to sub, like, share, and hit that bell for notifications. Hey, guess what? It's an Amphibia review. I will finish this series. It may take me years. Literally, it's been taking me years. I do apologize for that. But my room is set up differently now. I was like moving things around and we moved and there's a lot of stuff that was happening, but I got a pretty okay setup right now, so I can spend more time reviewing things instead of procrastinating. But here we go. Let's jump right into the episode. Another funny episode. I've forgotten how funny this show actually is. It has great gags, great like the facial features, like whenever they do like funny faces, and it's a funny setup. So Little Frogtown, I'm assuming this is a reference to like an old, 1930s black and white kind of detective story, but they're watching because Anne has like, I don't know, all of Netflix on her freaking phone. So they're watching like some old detective thing, and I do like the fact that they're all watching it and Hop Pop's not paying attention, so he's like driving really slow and he just kind of, oh sorry, he kind of pulls off to the side. We see this really big like arcade, but I've never, like, I grew up in the heyday of arcades where there were actual like arcades and not just like, oh, retro arcades. Like, there's some that are still around, but when I grew up, there were arcade machines in every store. Like 7-Eleven had 4 or 5 arcade machines. The local Smiths, Vaughn's, like the grocery stores would have arcade machines, not just like claw redemption machines, but like actual like Street Fighter, NBA Jam, stuff like that. So I see this really big arcade like this. I'm thinking, wow, what kind of video games do they have? Because I know Newtopia is more advanced, so I'm assuming, like, do they have video games, like actual video games, and it's not just like a Midway type thing, where you play like Midway games? But we never get to see inside the arcade. Kind of lame, whatever. But they really went here because Hop Pop had an old friend who made these amazing sandwiches, and he goes on and on about how great these sandwiches are. Like, he's having a full-blown like psychotic episode. He's having this a whole fantasy about the sauce and the meat and everything, and then Hop Pop's having like a moment, and even Anne's like, dude, you want some time alone with your sandwich? Because you're acting like a freak. But he's like, no, this guy does it the old way. He makes sandwiches, his special sauce, and it's just like the best sandwiches ever. Kids don't want to do it. They're like, it's really nice, Grandpa, but they go, okay, you guys go to the arcade, I'm going to go get one of these sandwiches. Like, look at this face. I love all these faces. The place is trashed, like completely destroyed. So he's like, oh, something must have happened here. But, then he looks and sees that there was a safe behind one of the pictures and like the recipe. And it just says, oh, get the sauce. Like, oh, someone broke in and stole. Then it goes to black and white and it goes in a letterbox. So it's supposed to be like, those movies they were watching. So he's trying to think of, oh, what could be happening? I got to find some clues. And he picks up his old fedora. So he looks like an old timey detective guy, the old gumshoe. So that's the main storyline. The second storyline is them waiting in line at this arcade. 3 hours later, good God. I'm trying to think. Technically, back in the day, I've waited multiple hours in line. When the Xbox and the Nintendo Wii first came out, I waited in line. I waited probably 6 hours for a Nintendo Wii because they only had like 5 pre-orders at the GameStop. But I know what it's like to wait in lines. It sucks. But, they're just kind of hanging out. Then like this little kid cuts in the line. And then Anne's like, we can't let this kid cut in front of us. Sprague and Polly are like, whatever, who cares? He's a stupid little kid. But then Anne's like, no, you don't get to just cut people in line. So she's getting pissed off, and that's going to be the second storyline, is this whole line situation. Get back to Hop Pop, and I guess on the little paper that said get the sauce, there was like this big party. So it's, again, classic. Everyone's even dressed like it's the 20s. Everyone has like that kind of dress on. I'm like, well, okay, why would it perfectly match up? But he's trying to investigate what's going on. He sees that the sauce is on some of like the little hors d'oeuvres and everything. And he's like, wait a second. Sal would never put his sauce on anything but a sandwich. So someone must have either stole the sauce or is like illegally making it. So he's trying to figure out what's going on. He's talking to the waiter guy. He's like, hey, I need you to do a favor for me. He just beats him up and steals his clothes. Gets into the kitchen. And this guy is freaking huge. And he's like, oh, you can't be in here. And he like puts a little hairnet on him. Oh, not without this. Hairnets, anyone who's ever worked in the kitchen, worked fast food, if you got to wear a hairnet. That or a baseball cap. Something, you got to have your hair covered up. So he's trying to figure out what's happening with the sauce, but the waiter comes back and, hey, that's the guy who beat me up. They just throw him in the dumpster. They just kick him out. I'm surprised he didn't get arrested. He just gets thrown into a dumpster, but he sees that the sauce is now in a can. So he's like, whoa, somebody is illegally manufacturing my best friend's sauce. Cut back to the kids. They're waiting in line. Then that little one that cut in front of him, he invited his other friends in. So now they're like 5 people ahead of them. And people who do stuff like this are the worst kind of people. Like, if there's a big line for something, I can understand holding your line for your buddy who might have to go to the bathroom. Hey, I'll be back in 10 minutes, 5 minutes, I got to go to the bathroom, or something happened, I got to make a phone call, I got to step out of line. I get that. 100% understandable. Holding the line for like 4 or 5 people, nah. You don't get to do that. So Anne's super pissed. And then she uses her humanness to her, advantage. Look at all these faces. They're just so funny. She goes, hey, I'm a monster. I'm like a human. How do you know I don't eat newts? And then kind of does all these crazy faces. Perfect. This is beauty incarnate. Then the kid just starts crying. Then everyone's like, hey, you just threatened that kid? You said you're going to eat him. So Anne got herself into a huge freaking mess right now. Like, how are you going to explain this one away? Cut back to Hot Pop, finds the manufacturing plant, and it's like, break into this thing, got to find out who stole the secret recipe. He's sneaking around, but people see him. They're like, can we help you? And he's like, oh, don't worry about me. Just keep sneaking around. But like, nobody cares. He gets caught by one of the security guards, and he gets into like a fist fight, because in all these kinds of movies, there's always like a fight scene, and he's constantly talking to himself in his head, like always narrating. And he's like, oh, this guy looks like he knows how to fight. But I remember, I know a thing or two about fighting, or do I? And he just kind of gets his butt kicked. He does. After the first hit, he gets a big old black eye, and he's like dodging around. The guy falls into the vat, and he dies. From the way that the story goes, this man is dead. He killed him. And then he making stupid, like, the one-off little lines. Oh, the health and safety inspector is not going to like this, but that's the last thing on my mind. And like, they point a bunch of guns at him, like crossbows. So he gets dragged into the main office, and the big boss who supposedly stole the recipe is Sal. He's like, Hapadaya, well, it's a long time no see. What are you doing here? And he's like, oh, you stole your own recipe so you could sell it? And he's like, no, I just sold it because I realized nobody liked my sandwiches, but they liked my sauce. So I had to make a decision, go out of business or evolve with what the customers want. So I started providing just the sauce. Everyone loved it. Now I made this really big, I made a business out of it. And he's like, wait a second, but they were putting sauce on hors d'oeuvres. You would only put it on sandwiches. He's like, I sell my sauce to everybody. They can do whatever they want with it. Like, if they want to put it on other things, they can do that. Like, it's not up to me. So the whole lesson here is being able to grow with what happens, being able to change with the times, being able to roll with the punches. If something isn't working out, maybe you can change it a little bit, evolve it a little bit. I know I'm a big traditionalist. I like things to be traditional. And it's okay to change it a little bit. It's okay to adapt to the market. So, and that's all Sal did. He still makes his sauce. It's still a thing, and it's still his recipe. So it's not this, no tradition thing. He just kind of let people, adapt to, because he knew it was good. And maybe he just had to leave something out. And what the sandwiches was that thing he had to leave out. So that was a kind of a nice little lesson to learn. Then they come back to the security guard guys are like, hey, there's a body in one of the vats of the sauce. And they're like, what? And Hot Pop's like, oh, gotta go. So they said he found a body, aka that dude's dead. He's 100% dead. They get back to the kids and they're all like beat up. And they're like, what happened to you guys? Well, I stood up for what I believed in, and it was worth it. Anne's getting pulled back by like police officers, and they're like, oh, you let me go. And they pull out like a taser, and she's like, oh yeah, you're not gonna really tase me. They tase the living crap out of her. They just give her the plan. She had to ride the lightning, but she's like, whatever, we didn't get to go in the arcade, but I stood up for what I believed in. And then the Hot Pop starts narrating again, and he's like, talking about like, oh, I want an adventure, I got an adventure to tell my own. And they're like, Hop Pop, is everything okay? You're just standing there. He's like, oh no, I can't stop narrating. Will I ever be able to speak again? Am I stuck this way? And he just kind of gets that look on his face, like he's staring off into nothingness, but he can't like stop himself from narrating. And that's how the episode ends. So funny. The gags, the writing, it's just the comedy in the show is just top notch. I've yet to have an episode where I didn't laugh at least one time. Multiple laughs in this episode. Funny setup, funny presentation. The B plot of them waiting in line. I mean, it's a throwaway plot, but him being like this little detective guy and it being a spoof on those old detective films. It's a great episode. Super fun. But getting back into the swing of things with Amphibia, I definitely want to finish up the series. Again, it's impossible to not have seen spoilers. So I've seen images and GIFs but there's no context. Like I don't know what's going on in the scene. I just see these characters doing these crazy things, but I will get to it eventually. I know there's a lot of episodes because each episode is 2 episodes, but they all deserve their own review. So thanks for watching, guys. I love all of you. I really, really do. Keep sending me stories, keep sending me suggestions, commenting, liking, doing all that cool YouTube stuff. But I'm trying to get 2 done a week, and try to get this series finished up because it's a fun series, and I really think that out of all the Disney stuff that's come out lately, I find myself wanting to come back to this because it's consistently good. Crimson Sin here. Thanks for watching the video. Remember, liking, subscribing, sharing, and commenting on the video really helps out a lot. It gets the video spread around more people get to see the videos, and we get to make more videos for you guys. So thank you, and we appreciate every single one of you guys.